What's going on? Appreciate y'all watching my videos. What's going on? What's going on, YouTube? Oh, what's going on? Thought I'd make a live real quick, um, providing y'all an update. What's going on in my life? So, as y'all know, I work for the federal government. So, um, I'm furloughed. So right now, since October 5th, is it October 5th or 6th? I've been chilling at the house, just doing some chores around the house and whatnot, and just chilling. So since October 5th, I've been furloughed. So um, I got paid Friday. That was my last check. I got paid on Friday. So when was that? What was that? That was like the 11th. It was the 10th, the 11th, something like that. I had my last check. So I don't know, man. Congress right now, they pointing the finger at each other, the Democrats and the Republicans. And so they can't make up their mind. So I guess we just gonna be furloughed until further notice. So, there's like a fundamental truth, what I always been telling y'all. I've been telling y'all. What I always been telling y'all, what I continue to tell y'all. Y'all can probably guess. If you've been watching my videos, you can probably guess what I'm gonna say. I keep telling y'all, since I've been running my trucking business, since I was a W-2 driver, since I running my trucking business, I was leased on, I was doing all these things. What is this common thing that I keep telling y'all? No matter what you doing out here, keep saving your money. Right. Freight night, you got it. Save your doggone money. What I keep telling y'all, pay cash, pay down debt, save your money. Right? Because I don't care what you're doing, W-2, running a trucking business, Uber business, landscaping business, barbershop business. There's like fundamental things you have to always continue to do. No matter what the government doing, no matter what your friends doing, no matter what your auntie doing, your brother doing, or whatever, your girlfriend doing, save your money. Always have a plan B, C, D set up. And so, I find it real interesting. Like, it's just crazy because I be bumping into people older than me. I be bumping into people who got me by at least 30 years, 20 and 30 years. I'm 40, right? And I bump into people that's 50, 55, 60, 65, 70 years old, and they haven't grasped this fundamental like truth. And like, I'll be bumping into these people, talking to them. I have coworkers that I work with. When you work in government, you work around a lot of old people, because in federal government, people die at these jobs. People stay there forever. I bump into folk in their 70s, 60s, all wide ranges. Young people, 20-year-olds all the way up to 60-something-year-olds. You know, you know, and like it's just funny because I want to go to these people for guidance. I want to go to these people for wisdom and talk to them. I want to talk to them and see, like, get some wisdom and some guidance and whatnot, and ask questions on life. I've met one person so far since I've been working in the federal government for the last 3 years. I've met one person, maybe two, that probably gave me a little wisdom that I didn't already know. I find myself helping people that's got me by at least 20-something years. I find myself helping folk, giving them advice. And it's just funny because I just feel like once you get to about 55, 60 years old, I just feel like you just mastered life. You should be a mastered life by now. It's like I bump into these people and I'll be like, man, I bet they failed a bunch of times and they learned from their mistakes, and and I'm gonna go to them and learn some of that wisdom, right? And get some of their mistakes and learn from that and apply it to my life, right? No. These folks, 65, 70 years old, still making the same dumb decisions that they made when they was 20. You would think they mastered life already. It's like, okay, they done this, done that, done this, done that, and they got to a point in their life they should be mastering life. They should be mastering life. Nope. Nope. They still running around like a child. They still making decisions like a 20-year-old. Still making those same bad decisions they made when they was 30. And it don't make no sense to me. It's laughable. And I hate to laugh, but it just doesn't make any sense. Like, how you haven't learned your lesson yet? Why haven't you learned your lesson yet? It's just funny, man. It's like you still making them stay. You still dating the same women that cause you harm in the first place. Why you keep dating these same kind of women? You 60 years old. Stop dating them kind of women. You need to graduate and you need to elevate to a new level of woman. You're like, okay, I'm dating these kind of women. I see a trend here. I shouldn't be dating these kind of women anymore. Let me start to elevate and move over here and start to date these kind of women, so that way I don't continue down on that same track. Nope. I bump into these guys 60, 65 years old. Yep. You think they learned their lesson? Nope. You think they learned their lesson dealing with credit cards. You would think they mastered credit cards. You would think they mastered debts and loans. You would think they mastered buying a house. You would think they mastered buying a car. You would think they mastered relationships. You would think they mastered the workplace dynamic, how to work the game of your employer. When you work at a W-2 job, there's a game to it. There's politics involved and stuff. There's a game that you have to master to be able to get to whatever level that you're trying to get to at your job. And like you bump into these folk, they ain't mastered it. You would think they mastered. I'm coming to them advice, and it ain't nothing they can tell me. I'm giving them advice. It's like, bro. And I don't want to be the know-it-all. I really don't. I don't. I'm always looking for wisdom, and I'm always searching for information and ideas. And like, I don't want to be right. I don't. But then when I start talking to them, and it's just like, why you keep doing that? You 65 years old. Why you doing that? You still doing the wrong. Why you doing that? You haven't learned to save your money? Save your money. You still spending reckless like you was when you was 20s and your 30s. You still being reckless. You haven't mastered cars. The art of buying a car. You haven't mastered that yet. You 65. It's too late. 70. You know? Like it's just real interesting. You start, and it's just like, man, like this thing is a trip, man. And so I bring all that up just to say, man, like the easiest thing you can do is just save your money. And so, I get in conversations with people and they be like, man, look, I ain't trying to save all my money and all this, and I'm trying to live my life. Nobody ain't never said save all your doggone money. I never said that. And see, the thing is, my intentions, I think it's just common sense that you can't save all your money. You see, you need some money to eat. You need some money to go to the movies, and you need some money to pay bills and stuff like that. That's obvious. But what I'm saying is, like, save some money, a reasonable amount of money, 10 to 15% of your income. And so I just assume that it's common sense, that it's a well-known fact that you need to save some money. And so, because, I walk around and I talk to people, and you'll be amazed at how many people don't save any money at all. Like, they spend all their money. They spend it all. They just 60-something years old, just spend it all. And they haven't learned from when they was 20, 30, 40, 50. They 60, 65 years old, and they're still doing the same thing, and then look up trying to retire and don't have no money. You look up and you like 60-something years old, and then surprised that you ain't got no money. Of course, you couldn't put money in a retirement account fast enough. You done. It's too late. 30, 40 years is done pass you by. It's too late. I find it very interesting. It's just, I don't know, it's just interesting. It's crazy, man. Like, I find myself looking at myself in the mirror, and I just be like, man, I did some things in my life. Okay, I'm not gonna do that no more. That was bad. Like, I did these things over here. They failed. So let me go over here and try this and see if this works. And see if I fail. And I'm gonna try this out. And I'm gonna keep trying different things until I find a common theme and I can be successful at it. But it's interesting. Like, I bump into folk and they just been doing the wrong thing for 30 years. And they haven't sat down and thought, like, man, maybe this isn't the right way to be doing things. It's like, do you think? Do you think? Got 12 people in here. I appreciate y'all. Save your money. Yeah, man, that's all I be saying, man. Save your doggone money. I be banging on the steering wheel in my truck. Save your doggone money. Oh, man. I live off $180, and I've been living in my truck for almost 9 years now, and only 32 might quit next year. Thanks to one of your lives. I live off interest. Congratulations, man. That's it, man. All you gotta do is put money in the S&P 500. That's all you gotta do. So Freight Night, I mean, I don't want you to put all your business out here, but like, I did some research years ago, and it was this guy that I bumped into online. He said he lived in a truck for 10 years, and he was able to save about $1 million living in the truck. And in that period of time, he was able to save $1 million, and he retired. I don't remember all the details of that situation, but he did very well. It was just him, one man trucking business, and he was able to save $1 million. And so I hope that's your situation. Because, I tell that story all the time, because we don't have foresight to see down the road. And, when you're not a descendant from a wealthy family, you have to put the work in. You have to find a source of revenue. You have to build your own source of revenue. You have to build something yourself. And if you wasn't born into a wealthy family, like most people, you're going to have to build something yourself. You have to do smart, intelligent things when it comes to finances and stuff. You got to leverage your time. Time is real valuable. Time is real valuable. You can't waste it. Everybody gets 24 hours a day, and you just got to figure out how to leverage it and find that stream or whatever, that stream that pays. And so, I know, like, for me, my stream was trucking and my work ethic. And so, I was raised by men in my family that's just hard working, and they taught me how to work hard. I don't know anything else, but I know I can outwork somebody. And so, I know I'm not that smart. I know I'm not that smart, but give me some time and I'll figure something out to make something work. And so, I know I've learned to be patient with myself. Anytime I'm faced with a challenge of some kind, I know initially I probably won't even know what the hell I'm doing. I know I take a little bit longer than the average person to figure something out. But give me a little bit more time, and I'll dedicate myself, and I'll go laser sharp into whatever it is that I'm doing, and I'll figure it out, and I'll find out all the ins and outs of that issue, and I'll find out all the angles of that issue, the ups and downs, the ins and outs, and I'll be able to write a book about it, and I'll be the master of whatever that issue is. And so that's just how I'm wired. I need to be comfortable in whatever it is that I'm doing. And I would say I probably master whatever it is. And so I'll be able to come back and say, okay, doing this right here, but don't do this right here, because I tried all these different ways to figure it out. And so that's just how I roll. And so, I know that's my techniques, that's my skill that I have. But anything else, I know I'm not that smart. So, because I have people in my family tell me, oh yeah, 404, you the smartest guy in the world and all this, and I'm special. I'm a special kind of guy. You can do this, you can save money because you smart, or you did this because this and that. And I was like, nah, bro, man, that I stared. You didn't remember me staring at this book for 20 hours, reading the same paragraph 20 times. trying to figure out all the ins and outs of this situation. And so you get the luxury of looking at me right here, right now in front of you and seeing the end result, but you didn't see the last 20 years of hard work that I did. And so, you know, and so that's kind of the point I'm making. And so we just need, I know, like with me, I just need time. Just give me some time and I'll come back to you with a solution. And I know some people, they super smart. Like they can just look at a situation in 2 seconds and figure it out. That ain't me. That ain't me. I need some time. Give me a week. Some people just need a couple hours a day. I need a week. I have to be patient with myself. And so that's the thing. And so when I was younger, I didn't know how to be patient with myself. I just be like, I'll look at something and I'll be like, man, I don't know what this is, and just give up and just walk away. Now, as an older 40-year-old 404, I know I can do anything I want to do. I just need some time so I can focus and sit down and have some peace and clear my mind and look at this thing and go all in, and I'll figure it out. I'll come back and have a solution for you. And so that's just how how my mind works. I've learned that. That's my technique. And so that's I'm trying to make an example here. And so, you know, I say that because I bump into people and like, you know, and I try to explain that. And so that way, you know, when I'm talking to somebody and trying to help them, you know, have that long-term outlook or whatever, explaining that we all can do great, you know, we all can do great. And so when we talking about Freight Night, he's saying, you know, we can all strive for greatness, but sometimes we just have to do it ourselves. You know, we just wasn't blessed and born into a family where you just got to go out here and do it yourself and do it, get it yourself. And so for the most of us, you're going to have to sacrifice. What that means, you're just going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to give up something, you know. And so like when I be talking to people, they be like, man, I ain't doing that. It's just like, okay, well, it is what it is, man. You're going to have to give up something. And you know, for Freight Night and all the other folks out here, you got to give up 10 years, man, to get to it. You know, some people like, man, I ain't working 10 years. It's like, bro, the time going by, you're going to spend 10 years throwing boxes at Amazon anyway. You're going to spend 10 years laid up at your mama house. You're going to be spending 10 years laid up under some girl. You're going to be spending 10 years in jail. You're going to spend 10 years working at the supermarket, whatever the case. And so you're going to end up spending the 10 years doing something that you don't like anyway. You might as well go and spend the 10 years doing something where you're going to have $1 million at the end of it. You got to spend the time either way. We all got 24 hours. We all going to spend the time. And so you just got to sit down and commit to it and get some benefit on the other end. And it's just, for some reason, there's a lot of people out here where they don't want to do that. But then they want to judge other people and see what they got, see what they accomplished or whatever, and get mad at them. Don't get mad at them because they did the hard work. You got to put your hard work in and get yours. You know, that's not fair. That's not fair, man. You got people over here killing themselves, doing what they need to do to accomplish what they need to accomplish. But since you don't have what they have, you mad. What you mad for? You ain't do no work. That's not fair. You ain't do no work. Go do the work. Then you can get what they got. It's not fair. You know? That's not fair. And so, I know, like with me, growing up in the projects, man, like, there's nobody in my family in the trucking industry. There's nobody in the accounting industry, in the accounting profession. I know nobody in government except my oldest brother. He was in the military. And I know nobody in my family that ran a successful business of any kind. That don't know nothing about real estate, don't know anything about finances, budgeting, money, the game of money, going to school. None of those things to be successful. The only thing in my family is like going to get like a job somewhere. And we're not talking about a corporate white collar 9 to 5. We just talking about like my mom, she worked at Days Inn as a housekeeper, man, like fixing beds and stuff up. My aunt, she worked as a housekeeper for some rich people out on the East Coast. And my other auntie, she was a CNN nurse. And so these are not spectacular jobs that you can say, okay, fofo, here's some information I can hand down to you and you can go off and be successful. You got to get out that and go find your own, And so, if I look back in my family and all the people that I was connected to, and I'm not talking bad about them, I'm just saying, like, I was bred to go on and just get a factory job somewhere. You know what I mean? It's go throw boxes. And it's like, I refuse to do that. I refuse to accept that. I refuse. And so I wanted to go on and do something better than that. And so I just feel like my life is worth more than that. And so, and there's nothing wrong with just getting a job and paying bills and whatnot. But, I just feel like I just want to do better than that. And so that's the point I'm trying to make. That's the point I'm trying to make. But anyway, so we got 30 minutes on this video. Okay. Freight Knight said, I'm not going to say exact number, but it's in the mid 6 figures. I would have hit it soon once I got away from my ex. Keep making your videos. Help me out a whole. I'm happy to hear that, man. I'm happy to hear that. Man, I'm happy for you. What you think about them manipulating the market? There's nothing new. So the fact that they're manipulating the market, it's been that way for a very long time. Since the origins of the stock market, it's just something we just have to deal with. It's something we are not privy to those conversations. So, we're just not privy. I know, like, for me, I'm not privy to those conversations. I'm just a guy with a YouTube channel. I'm just a regular guy. I got a job. I own a house. And I'm married. I ain't nobody. I'm not high on the social I'm not high on the social level to really really have a impact on that. So I'm just a guy with a YouTube channel, and I got a job. So I mean, I'm not a senator. I'm not a member of Congress. I'm not the president. I'm not a wealthy IT guy. You know what I mean? I'm not a Jeff Bezos. I'm nobody. You know what I mean? So those individuals have more power and leverage. Somebody like me, I just got an opinion. That's all I got in my YouTube channel. But the market being manipulated is nothing we need to be concerned about, because we're not privy to. We have no business worrying about that kind of stuff. We're worker bees. We're part of like the low class. So, I wouldn't really worry about that stuff. My opinion on the whole thing is it's been that way for centuries. It's just another thing, like the Bible. You can go back to first century. The market being manipulated, that's just part of the powers that be. It's just another item that they use to control people. And so, social media, that's that manipulates the public. You got social media, just like the Bible. So right now we have technology, which is Facebook, social media, etc. And so the medias that be, which is the Facebooks, the Instagrams, and the news, this is current day media that controls the public. Before this technology was around, you had physical media. So you had the newspaper, you got the Bible. You can keep going all the way back to first century. You have the Bible. That was a control mechanism that controls the public. And so the stock market, it is just a control mechanism. And so if you're a person, if you woke, if you're watching my videos, you're watching, you got some form of intelligence to know that, okay, you should be watching this, not that, but this. You have some sense about yourself, knowing how to control what things enter your mind and what things you need to be entertaining your mind. And so you should be smart enough to know what things to be bothered by. And so the fact that the market is manipulated, I wouldn't really worry about it. Just invest your money in the S&P 500 and be smart enough to know what's BS and what's not BS. And so don't waste your time watching the news. Don't waste your time listening to what's on social media and what's going on in the government. Stay focused. Get to the money. Make good business decisions. Save your money. And make sure you're eating good. Make sure you're exercising. Save your money. And doing these common sense things, you will be fine. It's always, the powers that be always want more power. The powers that be always want more money. You really can't, these greedy folk, they just want more. They just want more. And so these people, is always going to be a handful of folk at the top, at the very tippy top of the whole world, want all the doggone power, trying to manipulate and control everything. And so that's what they do. And my job is to not worry about it, because you can go back over thousands of years. This same stuff is continuing over and over again. And so, you can go back to King James the First, King James the Second, King James the Third, Queen Elizabeth, Columbus. You can go back to Caesar. You can go back to the 18-somethings, the early 19-somethings. It's the same BS that they're doing today. It's the same BS. You can go back when the Christians was fighting, over the Middle East. The Christians was fighting these folk, and like the dynasty, they were fighting over power and all this stuff. It's the same garbage. Hitler, you can go on and on and on. It's the same mess. Guess what? People live through it. People live their life. People, worked. People saved their money. And so that's the best thing to do, is just go to work, save your money, make good decisions, man, and take care of your family. That's all I can say about that. Don't really get concerned about that stuff. Don't sit up there and digest all that news and all that scare tactics and worry. You just sitting around worry. It's like, whether that stuff there or not, you still got to live this life, man. You still got to live this life. Don't sit up there and digest all that stuff. You worry yourself to death. You got all this life ahead of you. I'm 40. I'm 40. I still got at least another 30, 40 years, man. Like, don't worry yourself over that stuff. Because if you go back over the last 20 years, just think about the last 20 years. All the things that happened. You still here. Look, you still here. You still here. Birds are chirping. Clouds are still, the sky is blue. Leaves are dropping. The sun comes up and go down. Sun comes up and go. Everything's still here. You can go back the last 20 years. What happened? Go back to the 90s. Go back to the 80s. What happened? Nothing. It was just a bunch of noise and fussing, right? Then you look at the early 2000s. A bunch of noise and fussing. The sun came up and it went back down. The sky blue, leaves fall off the trees. I mean, you know, and you still living and breathing. Nothing ain't changed. Nothing ain't changed. And so don't let none of this stuff take control of you like that, you know. And so you have to have the intelligence. You have to have the intelligence to know when to digest all this BS out here. Don't let this BS get in your head. Get up, go to work, save your money, exercise, take care of your family. That's what you need to be doing. Laugh, spend time with your family, laugh, and all that good stuff, and love your family. Do not let this mess get in your head, because all this is just smoke and mirrors. You can go back the last 100 years. It's just smoke and mirrors, smoke and mirrors. It's just something for nothing. It's a bunch of nothing, you know. So that's my opinion on it. That's my opinion on it. I advise you to get off social media, to be honest, and spend time with your family. You'll forget all about this mess. You'll be like, huh? What happened? I don't know. Huh? You know, it's just like you go back 10, 15, 20 years. Ain't nothing changed. Like, go back 20 years, it's like, okay, you still here. I mean, it ain't nothing changed, man. Just a bunch of noise. So that's my opinion on it. You can go back to 80s. It was a stock market in the 80s. What? The stock market, it was there. The stock market's still here. The 90s. What happened in the 90s to the stock market? Nothing. People made money, though. People put money in their S&P 500s and made money. I'll tell you that. The early 2000s. Real estate crash. Guess what? It came right back. And here we are. We're still here. You still here. You watching my videos. We still here. You know? And so that's my soapbox on that. You know, don't let the powers and the masses that be get in your head, because that's their job. They know people are not smart enough to make intelligent decisions. They know that. They tell you how to vote. They tell you what to eat. They tell you what to buy. They tell you how to spend your money. They are, you know, you got to understand the powers that be. They got doctors. They got psychologists. They got money masters. They got very smart, intelligent people that's behind closed doors trying to figure out how to manipulate you. These people are really smart. These people are really smart, man. You know, you got to remember, you know, where all this stuff comes from. Like, you got to remember, you have a choice whether you want to do something or not. But then these folk come along and then they sell you stuff, and they tell you how to spend your money. They tell you what to eat. They tell you how to live your life, and you don't even know that they're telling you, but they're telling you. You know, you got to take more control of your life, you know, and get off that social media, man. Stop watching the news and spend time with your family. You know, that's what you need to do. You got to know what to digest and make good decisions for yourself, because I swear, man, it's something else. You know, if you watching my videos, you're smarter than that. You're smarter than the average Joe. You're smarter than that if you watching my videos. But anyway, that's 40 minutes of me running my mouth, giving y'all an update. I'm still here, man. I'm still here. Appreciate y'all watching my videos. I'll see y'all next time.